This is the Final Word Cricket Podcast. Adam and Jeff sat next to each other. Just sticking around in England before we spread our wings a little bit.
Are you ever going to get a dog?
Am I going to get a dog?
Yeah.
I would love to. Rach, my wife's just walked in and going, no, you're not getting a dog.
Why don't you get a dog, Rach? It feels like this house would be nice with a dog. You have a little backyard. It doesn't need to be a big one.
Yeah.
It could be, a proportional dog to the backyard.
Winnie asked me whether we're getting a puppy. I said to her yesterday, after her first day of school, we might talk more about her first day at school on Story Time that's coming out in a couple of days. She said to me, I've got a surprise for you. Mm-hmm. She goes, a surprise? Are we getting a puppy?
That's good. Bid high. We need bid high.
No, you're going on the London Eye.
Yeah.
That was what our surprise was.
Okay.
And going to Nando's beforehand.
I don't know why, but it's something in my brain just made me look around for the dog. I just assumed, like, I've been in places with a lot of dogs. I just figured there should be one. So just file that under requests.
It's a request for me. Maybe we can get a lion. Andrew Flintoff's now going to be coaching the England Lions.
Yeah, probably not fit quite so much in this sized area, but maybe
As I am clumsily segue.
Did they have a pygmy lion? It was a brilliant segue. Yes, Flintoff coaching some young lions.
Yeah, look, and it's fine. It's more than fine. It's great.
Young
it's
lions,
great. And his TV show's done gangbusters. 3.5 million people watched the finale. Like, good on him. Like, this is great stuff, right?
Of the cricket show.
The show about
Field
kids,
of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Like, I didn't see it, so I can't speak with any authority on it. But I know it's a thing that's
more
good.
people than have watched a cricket match in England in 20 years.
Right, and he's a well-loved figure, and he's... I don't know if you heard the amazing speech that he gave when handing out Josh Hull's England cap. Like, he's clearly a compelling communicator and a very capable man. Full stop.
It was better than the average. Good on you, mate. You worked really, really hard, and you deserve this, and all applaud is coming your way. And I hope your mum and dad enjoy the week. Here's your hat.
It was a lot better than that. But I also understand why there is some cynicism. People are going, well, hang on a minute. He's best mates with Rob Key and he hasn't got any experience. Mm-hmm. He has got experience. He's been working with the England team for a year. So I don't know about, like, if you've been working with the England team for a year, by dint of that, you've got experience now. Yep. A year ago, he didn't have experience. Mm-hmm. Now he does. Mm-hmm. He wasn't involved in the game for a really long time. But I also do appreciate that some people will say, well, hang on a minute, if you're best mates with the bloke who runs the show, and that's not fair to either of them because that brings their integrity into question and neither of them deserve that. But from an impression perspective, it'll be celebrated that he's formally back involved with the English game, and I reckon he's going to do great things, and we've seen that he's well and truly immersed in it now because his son's playing for Lancashire. Yep. Saw his first class debut a couple of weeks ago and all the rest. It's just it's a quirky one because there would have been a queue of coaches who've been well and truly immersed in the system for a long time who would have fancied that gig.
It's complicated, I think, with perceptions. I mean, I read some reporting that said that Tim Walsh was politically inexperienced. He's been governor of a state for 12 years, but apparently doesn't have any political experience. I think it's right that there is some scepticism, and there do deserve to be questions about it from time to time because this is a very vibes-based economy. The way that Rob Key runs this England setup is like what I think is going to work most of the time. And the thing is that most of it's been pretty much on the money. Like he's got a lot more calls right than wrong.
Fucking atheist.
So maybe at some point you just have to go, well, you don't do it the conventional way because it's working, and that's okay. It would be annoying if you're a career coach slogging away and you're like, hang on, well, here's this bloke who's just got the reputation and the fame and the charisma and whatever, and that's enabled him to come in and jump past all of the worthy candidates and so on. But the one thing that would make me go the other way is that coaching is about charisma. I mean, what does a coach do basically these days? They're a motivator. You know, there's a degree of planning, there's a degree of tactical stuff and all the rest of it in the kind of Andrew McDonald mould where you're very much focusing on granular detail, but you also have entire coaching staff setups that do that kind of thing as well. You have analysts, you've got specialist coaches and so on. So that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be driven by the head coach. How much granular planning meeting stuff do you think Brendan McCullum does? I'm tipping not a lot. I'm tipping he leaves that to other people, and that basically his job is to make players feel good about themselves and set them up to succeed with clarity about what they're supposed to do. And that's the kind of thing that Flintoff could do. You know, is a 17-year-old player going to be more buzzed getting a rev up from Andrew Flintoff or getting a detailed strategy meeting from Chris Silverwood, you know. It's what do you actually want that person there to do? And if you want them there to inspire teenagers and make them feel good about themselves and charge them up with confidence to go into the next step, then why not use that guy?
Yeah, that's a very reasonable point. I think that what does a coach do? It's a bit of a choose your own adventure story. Different
Can be lots
teams,
of different things.
Yeah, different teams use their coaches in different ways, right? You hear from some professional cricketers where it's exactly what you're describing. It's the hands-off model. It's the kind of Brendan McCullum model, right? You set the vibe of the dressing room and you set the framework and you let the players work with the specialist coaches, whereas some are far more hands-on, some are more process-oriented, others are more about making sure everyone feels good.
But each of those things are legitimate, I think. And so if you've got someone who's going to make people excited about the cricket, which Andrew Flintoff does, that's an asset that it would seem silly not to use, I think.
And I think the other point here is that Rob Key has got the Midas touch. Not everything's gone right with English cricket since he took over as managing director. Absolutely not. I mean, the white ball tournaments, he said himself and did multiple interviews afterwards saying that, you know, unless they start winning, I'm going to lose my job. Like he's good like that. He just calls it as he sees it because that's his personality. I mean, I saw he did an interview with TMS during the week, which in some of the predictable corners, people got very, very cross because he was talking about or explaining the way Josh Hull ended up in the Test team. And his view was that there is one very clear way to get in the England Test team, that's county cricket, and what he's providing and supplying are other avenues that aren't just the championship. And people read that and took that as, well, this guy doesn't respect county cricket. But he's pretty qualified to have a view about this. He did play it for 20 years, and he did have and I know, having worked with him before he went into administration when he was still working in media, there's no one who consumed more county streams than Kesey. I mean, he's all over every detail of the county championship. He's entirely qualified to have an opinion on the suitability of the competition and we might have differences of opinion with him about parts of it. For example, I don't agree with him that it should be 10 games per team per season. I think that's not something that if I were running the show, I'd be advancing for lots of different reasons. But that's one of his views, and that's fine. He's well on the record talking about that before he took over with England. But yeah, I reckon that what he's been responsible for has, on the most part, been successful. And the fact that, you know, the Bazball moniker does mean that when they do poorly and when they don't win, it's an interesting dynamic with the public. They get the shit kicked out of them when they lose, but when they win, everyone's pretty relaxed. But yeah, it comes back to your previous point that maybe the fact that he is in that job, it does give them greater opportunity to access a Flintoff, whereas Flintoff may not have had any interest if it wasn't Key running the show in the first place.
Yeah, and in some ways I think this could be seen as unfair as well, but in some ways it's a reciprocal relationship, like a duty of care kind of thing that, you know, Andrew Flintoff has been through such a traumatic time over the last couple of years that why not let the game give something back to him? You know, why not say, well, there's a place for you here to come and be part of what's happening here? I think I could understand why someone would say that was an unfair thing to do or that it was preferential or whatever it is, but it's also, you know, who has done more for cricket in England in a public relations kind of sense in the last 50 years?
I remember when they were doing the 2019 World Cup ads. Flintoff retired in 2009 from the England team. In 2019, he was the front of the marketing campaign for the 19 World Cup, and he was barely involved in cricket. Back in that era, his life had moved on entirely. That's fine, by the way.
And he was running that.
I'm not being critical when I say his life had moved on, but they still went back to the well with Flintoff then, which shows that he is one of the very few people who, since cricket went behind the paywall, he's one of the very few people who still managed to stay out in the public image. And this TV show that's wrapped up last week bolsters that yet further. And
he's also, you know, someone who's taken that fame and then gone out into the world and put a lot more positivity out than I would say than like Ian Botham, for instance, who has done a bunch of charity stuff, but also, you know, just pumps out a bunch of negative stuff as well. That hasn't happened from Flintoff. There's a kind of light that comes from what he does that affects people and it means something. So I think in that way, having him involved is probably good for both parties.
Jeff, during the week, Moeen Ali retired. Now, not the first time we've done a Moeen Ali retirement segment on this program, but formally retired from all international cricket. He'd done the different types of retirements before, and obviously, famously, came out of retirement during the Ashes this time last year or 14 months ago. But through the Mail on Sunday, rather than like the formal statement, he did it through an interview there. And there was that postscript is a great way for him to have finished his career, because remember, he was perilously close to 3,000 test runs and 200 test wickets when he retired. He went over both milestones, finishing up with 3,094 runs and 204 wickets. And was involved in 2 World Cup winning teams, albeit wasn't in the 11 at Lords in 2019. Sadly lost his spot halfway through the tournament, but very much in that squad and in that generation of England players that turned their white ball game around entirely, and did play in the 2022 World Cup winning side at the MCG. So, a funny career, an unusual career in so many ways. He did an awful lot as a role model. Vish wrote a great piece on Cricinfo about this overnight as well, but what he represented and it shouldn't be all about this in the postscript, by the way, but you can't divorce the fact that he was a huge role model for working class England and Muslim England, who saw him as someone who had made the grade and had dominated on the world stage. There were a couple of years there when he was one of the most dynamic all-rounders in the world across the 3 formats. Remember in 16, 17, around then, he was as good as anyone going around in the world. And his career probably didn't reach those peaks too often after that. There was the outstanding series against South Africa in 2017 when he took 25 wickets and made 250-odd runs, took a hat-trick, had a 10-wicket haul, and that was all under the banner of him being the second spinner. You might remember, Jeff, they brought Dawson into the team. Moeen's like, well, I feel far more relaxed now. I'm the second spinner, and that's when his returns were most extensive. But, an Ashes winner in 2015, the last time England won it, and some brilliant individual performances, a 50-ball 100 in one-day cricket against the Windies, which was the day of the Bristol brouhaha. Earlier that day, Moeen was the one making all the headlines. So the end of a really fascinating career.
Yeah, took wickets on that last day at the Oval in the Ashes as well, which was, maybe that was worth him hanging on. Yeah, he's someone I have a lot of respect for as a person. I thought, as I've said before, as a player, I thought he should have wrapped it up, or England should have wrapped him up a few years earlier than they did. He didn't make runs in one-day cricket since 2017, really. Didn't contribute a lot in Test or one-day cricket in those last few years. He did have that really good burst in the T20 side in 2021 and 22, leading up to that World Cup, where he was scoring quickly and making big numbers at one point, and was contributing with the ball as well. But there's sort of that 2-year period, and then not so much in the couple of years after that. So it's look, he was on a 1-year contract which was running out in a month or so, and it was the time to leave him out. It's different to the Bairstow situation where they gave him a 2-year contract and then punted him a few months later.
It all makes sense. The timings all line up. It's fine. Like, it's just one of those ones where this is fine.
Yeah.
And he's clearly fine with it as well.
Yeah.
He's 37 and said that it's the right time for England to be moving on. Not every retirement or omission needs to be a drama. And I actually think that it's pretty cool that this was quite low key.
Trying to make some cash for the Jaffna Stallions or whatever.
And I'm sure he's made plenty of that. Like, he's of course had the chance to play in the IPL and other domestic tournaments around the world, and I'm sure he'll keep doing that. Other international cricket, Jeff, we won't spend too much time talking about this, but there are some threads from it. Australia having 3 T20 internationals in Scotland late last week and over the weekend. The first of which was an extraordinary chase because how quick it was. They were only after 155 for victory after Abbott took 3 for to keep Scotland to 154 for 9, but they got there in 9.4 overs. Travis Head, having had his bat in the garage for a month, as he said, he hadn't touched his bat, came out and smacked 80 from 25. Sometimes the best thing you can do when you're an international cricketer is put the bat away for a month, I reckon. When it's 16s, and then Marsh made 39 from 12 to finish the job.
Yes.
There was a nice bit of correspondence from Sean McGivern, who's a member of our Nerd Pledge CSI group. I saw Australia hit 14 balls in a row for a boundary on Wednesday. Sean lives in Edinburgh, by the way, where the games are being played at the Grange. Unless I'm searching wrong, this seems to be a record by a mile. The next best I've found in internationals is 7, and Scotland are actually one of the teams to do this. And in domestic T20s, it's 10. and he says here that it's happened in the IPL and the Super Smash. So 14 consecutive balls went to or over the ropes when Head was in full swing.
Yeah, and with Marsh, I think, was batting with him at that point. They hit two. The last 2 balls of an over went for 4, I believe, and then there were 3 6s and 3 4s in the next over from Marsh, and then Head went to town and hit, what was it, 5 4s and a 6 or something in the over after that. So there was a 30 run over and a 20-something run over. They got there in pretty quick time. It was pretty brutal. Josh Inglis made Australia's fastest 100 as well, 103, not out of 49.
So that's in the second game. So that's
in the second game. Yeah. They were batting first that time and made nearly 200. And in the third game, Scotland made another 140-ish score, and Australia chased that down pretty comfortably. 4 wickets down. Cameron Green 62 not out. Brandon McMullen was outstanding. He was the lead run scorer for the series. He made runs in every game.
I just feel
he
like
outscored every Australian it seemed had a good day, but he had 3 good days.
Yeah, that's right. So you're right.
Well,
pretty much every Australian player on tour, apart from one, had something good happen to them across those few days. But yeah, Brandon McCullum. McMullen, sorry, not McCullum. Yeah. Look, it's not just like green shoots with Scotland. There have been pumps in the first game especially. Yeah. But,
they nearly beat Australia 3 months ago.
Nearly beat Australia in a World Cup a couple of months ago. And it clearly suited Australia playing on a small club ground. That's what the Grange is. The Grange is a club ground. And they've made...
There were all the shots of Josh Hazlewood in someone's front garden looking for the ball under a bush and all the rest of it.
That game that we play for the final word against the eccentric Flamingos, we have to walk past the Grange to get to the pub afterwards over the last 2 years. And I did a few interviews there on our Scotland special. It is a postage stamp, and that suited clearly. But... and that's frustrating that they haven't been able to push Australia really in any of them, because we were kind of thinking that maybe they might steal one of those and that would contribute to their list of wins, which helps with ICC full membership and so on. But yeah, don't write off like where Scotland are based on this. No. I think that would be folly, because they were only a couple of overs away from qualifying for the second stage of the World Cup. Not even 3 months ago,
by beating Australia.
The player who missed out was Jake Fraser-McGurk. In hindsight, it's quite funny, really, that there was all this chat before the World Cup of what a disgrace it is that Warner's going. Who of course did quite well in the World Cup, as he always fucking did at World Cups. Warner, wasn't he? Had this ability just to turn it on at World Cups. Fraser-McGurk not playing in this World Cup just demonstrates everything that's wrong with selection, everything that's wrong with this group of players. He's not made a run since then. I think he's had this. He made no runs in this. He made 0, 16 and 0 in this series. But this goes back. I think it's like Cherney did the numbers pretty much since when that debate was being had. He's not made a run. So, and that's fine, by the way. That's cool. That's whatever. It's no big deal. It's T20 cricket. But it shows how capricious these things can be.
He played in the Major League and didn't make any there.
Yeah, that's right. It was the Major League followed by this, where he's just having a little rut. And you're allowed to have a little rut.
You're allowed to have a rut. But which isn't to say that had they picked him in May, he wouldn't have made runs then.
Oh, no, but I think the procedural argument that this guy's so good is like he has to be like, this is shape-shifting, generation-defining cricketer that's here right now.
He's an extremely aggressive opening bat, of which there are many, and most of them have periods where they don't make any, because that's what they do. And that's fine. And I hope that he plays all 8 games. He's in both squads for the Australia stuff. I hope he opens in all 8 games and figures it out once or twice and finds a way to do it.
I'm sure he will. And you got to take the assessment of smart people, like, the way that Maxie speaks about him, right? Like, this guy's got people who know a lot about extravagant short form cricket who think he's next level. So, and some of his individual performances would suggest that over the last 12 months. The one sad part about this, from what's happening in Scotland into what's happening in England, is Nathan Ellis. The injury he picked up playing for the Spirit, for the hamstring. He was in Scotland. They realised he wasn't going to be ready in time. They sent him home. So they're keeping Riley Meredith around in the squad.
Well, the other one, Spencer Johnson, is out as well, because he was in the original squad, and he got injured. Same thing, bowling England domestic cricket, side strain, I think. So that was, for me, that was the exciting bit, was you had Johnson and Bartlett, who sound like an administration in that T20 side, because it was only Hazlewood there, Cummins not there, Stark not there. So clearly it was going to be Spencer Johnson and Xavier Bartlett playing in all of those games, you would have thought to have a look at them being the next pairing, the right arm fast out swinger and the left arm quick. So that's not going to happen, which is unfortunate. But
I suppose with Johnson, if you want to keep with your theme there, he was the vice president who became the president, wasn't he?
True.
So who's getting the opportunity? Riley Meredith is the is your John Hoynes in this, I suppose. What do you want to go with? To the Bartlett and so on. Meredith in. Hazelwood's back in. I mean, Hazelwood was always going to do the England League, but they were similarly if he's fine to go, he plays. And he's fine to go, so he plays. His calf strained
is Tim Payne Gerald Ford in that sort of argument? Taking over after after a scandal. A sacking in disgrace.
Yeah. But then Payne goes.
Similarly,
I don't think we've had two on the trot.
Gerald Ford,
that way.
Jimmy Carter on The Simpsons. And having achieved all of my aims in my first term of presidency, there was no need for another.
Yeah, the George Bush bit. Was this or is Payne by virtue of the way that happened? Was he assassinated? Was the way? So was he? One of the 3 US presidents who've
bit the dust.
Who've bit the dust that way, maybe because of the way it happened with Payne, the big hit just before the Ashes. Anyway, that you can debate that in the comments.
Sure.
Staying in that part of the world, that's not quite right, but staying in the Celtic parts generally. Let's go to Ireland. Let's go from Scotland over to Ireland, and Kate Cross's England. It doesn't have a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Kate Cross's England have annihilated Ireland, which is annoying in a way because Ireland did so well to beat Sri Lanka 3 times in a row and take a series off the Sri Lankan women who've been going so well themselves. But this is a reminder, remembering that England have taken under Cross a team over there for 3 one-days and 3 T20s, which is about Generation Next. It's a bunch of uncapped players and a couple of senior players who have learnt their craft being full pros over the last 5 years, being involved in the England regional structure. So we shouldn't be surprised with that depth that when they assemble a team like that they are going to be. It's not like you're picking your second 11 from England 10 years ago. And the best case study in all of this is Tammy Beaumont. So in the first one-day international, England only had 211 to chase after all the Prendergast. Made 76, one of the players we've been watching very closely.
Catcher in the WBBL this summer.
Indeed. And Kate Cross, by the way, the captain, took 6 for 30. 6 for 30, if you don't mind.
Career best.
By some way.
Career best bowling and batting in the same game.
Yeah, she made 38 not out in the chase. Bess Heath and Holly Armitage making runs there as well. In the second game, England make 320 for 8 and Tammy Beaumont makes 150. That's her 10th one-day 100, right? You go through the list.
Charlotte Edwards,
that's
9,
the third most ever. Overtakes Charlotte. Siva Brunt, a teammate of hers, who's also got 9. Atapatu's now got 9. Woolvart's got 8. They'll probably all end up in double digits as a group. But Bates with 13. Lanning, who's now retired, with 15.
15, yeah.
And Beaumont, when England went from amateur to semi-pro to pro, through that era, when we first started covering women's cricket, some of the players who were getting a game, it was farcical on the records they were presenting for England, but they kept getting picked. Beaumont would say that of herself, that she felt awkward about how it started with her and how often she played before she really earned it and nailed down her spot in the team. Now, what are we, 8 years on from that first time when she got on a roll against Pakistan in the summer of 2016, and she's got 10 one-day hundreds to her name, and it's all about the professional system, and all about the work she's been able to do, treating this like a full-time job, because it is a full-time job. So I was thrilled to see that. Just the Kate Cross thing, interested in your view on this, Jeff. So Heather Knight is 33. She's been doing the job since the middle of 2016. Actually, when Tammy went on that role, it was Heather Knight's first days in charge of that team.
After the T20 World Cup.
That's right, when Charlotte Edwards retired.
When Edwards was forcibly retired.
Yeah, that's right. So, it's a long time to be international captain. Heather Knight's done a terrific job.
Most players do it for 4-ish years,
right?
3 to 4.5 kind of thing. She's done it for 8.
So if Heather decided, and I don't think she will, but if she decided after this T20 World Cup in October that she just doesn't want to do that anymore and she wants to be a senior player in the team, I do wonder whether Cross might get made the captain. Yeah, it's generation.
Next.
It's the same generation. She's 32, 1 year younger than Knight. But whether they might go, well, Kate Cross doing it at the moment, never been a better cricketer than she is right now, will have the enthusiasm for the task, and I'm not entirely sure who the next captain is out of that lot, who are 20-something. I don't know who it is. Is it Sophie Eccleston? Some people say that.
I mean,
reflexively, I'm not sure. Maybe it is, but is it better to give that group more time to develop by having Cross do it for a World Cup cycle or something like that? What do you reckon?
I don't think it'd be after the T20 World Cup because the Women's Ashes in Australia is the next assignment, and there's no way Knight would go before that. And I mean, she really wants to beat the Australians. Like she's at that Claire Connor point, I think, where it sticks in the guts how many times the Australians have got it over England across that number of series. You know, the drawn series included, where Australia have still managed to hang on to the trophy. There's always that sense that they couldn't quite do it, couldn't quite get the Ashes. So, you know, that'll be a driver for her, I'm sure. And I suppose whether she goes on after that, she doesn't seem fatigued by it, I think. And Eccleston just has too much work to do with the ball. You know, it's not the case that a bowler shouldn't captain, because Cross potentially could, but Eccleston is so heavily relied on in almost every, like, you know, she's half the time she's their death bowler in 20 over cricket. She's their stock bowler in Test cricket. She's their most important bowler in 50 over cricket. They're always turning to her at seemingly every juncture of the game when something is needed, and I don't think you can really have that be your captain, because then it's hard to know when to use that best player in the side, I suppose. Yeah. It's something that Cummins has had to work out how to do, and potentially other bowlers could do, but I don't know whether Eccleston is that player.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I guess it's more about the generation jump. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to wait a couple of years?
Yeah.
I'd go to Cross. If it were me, I think clearly an intelligent, articulate, capable person, full stop. Had to fight hard to be better than in the England team, had significant spells away from it, has overcome challenges in her own life as well, which she told us all about on The Final Word back in 2019, suffering from depression and so on. I think she'd be a terrific captain.
Is she an every game lock, though, whenever fit?
They might split it, right? Because, she is in the one-day team and the Test team. She hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket. That might be the one thing. But they could split it. They could go like the next generation captain does the T20 side after this World Cup. There'll be 2 years to it could be not a bad time in the cycle.
Who would that be? Dunkley, maybe?
Yeah. It's a good question. Charlie Dean might be an outside chance, but again, you're looking at a spinner. A lot of work to do in that side.
Yep.
Anyway, all questions that'll be considered at the time that Heather decides, because she'll decide her own departure, I am certain. Jeff, we're nearly finished on the show. I mentioned before that the county championship, we're a bit between the raindrops on this because of we're only, when we're recording this, a day and a half into that round. So, I mean, in a nutshell, Somerset 3-14 all out on day one. So that's going to be the whole ball game. It's quite cool how it's set up that way, right? It's the week where Surrey are most depleted due to all their white ball guys who are playing for England tomorrow are in that camp, and all their red ball guys couldn't be available because they're playing a test match until Monday. So they've had to do some shrewd recruiting. Shakib Al Hassan in for a one-game contract, took forfeit yesterday, bowled all day. They're getting every dollar out of that guy while he's here. But like Ben Geddes, not played this year. He's batting in the top six. Cam Steele, who started the year dominating with the ball, he's batting in the top six as an all-rounder. So, they've got the best depth in the country. It's being tested this week, and looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Sussex had a great day one as well, as did Middlesex. So the two teams who are leading the way in Division 2 are well placed to lock down their promotion spots, and they've got 2 more rounds after this one. Next week, Surrey host Durham. So it'll all be dictated to by what happens against Somerset, but if they were to get up there, or if they were to have a decent draw at least, they may be mathematically in a position to wrap it up a week early. Last thing, Jeff, a bit of correspondence we got during the week from Roger Bolstridge, who I actually mentioned a couple of weeks ago, a guy I've played a bit of cricket with this year, and the guy who's played like 60 games this year, and I love stories like that. Just wanted to put something on our agenda, and not an unreasonable thing either. All of the cricket that's being played over age, I didn't realise this, all the over 50s, over 60s, that's all like pay your own way, not recognised by the ECB, pay for your own lunch, and I just think that this has the opportunity with participation over age cricket to do what indoor cricket, for example, is under the banner of the official Cricket Australia remit now, and that kind of thing. Other areas of cricket, it's great that disability cricket enjoys that status as well now, right? Surely over age cricket is the kind of thing where, if we're trying to keep more people in the game for longer, and the broader benefits of that, seems a bit a bit ill-considered to me that there are players who are representing their counties and like doing it at age 61 or whatever. I think that's a reasonably easy win. And we're seeing how big veterans cricket is in Australia as well. I know they've got their national carnivals coming up in Perth through the very end of 2024. This is clearly a growth area for the game and should be embraced and harnessed more fulsomely.
And all the conversations that I talked about the Indigenous over 50s sides, the Vic and New South Wales sides that those guys were having about how significant it was to them to be able to get together with a group of mates and play and feel that camaraderie and have that support, just from a mental health perspective, that almost everybody who was there talked about how it helped them, it brought something to their lives in that kind of way. So there is an argument that I suppose generally an older player is more likely to maybe have a few bob up their sleeve and they're able to do that sort of thing, but that doesn't account for everybody. There'll be plenty of players who would love to play but can't afford to do that, can't afford to devote the time to it and pay for the travel and all the rest of it. So
you don't want barriers for entry for stuff like this.
That's fundamentally what I'm getting at. If you can make it more possible for more people to be involved, that's a win for the sport.
Anyway, the over 60s final is between Yorkshire and Lancashire. Rose's match, and the over 50s final was on the weekend where Yorkshire beat Wales, who've got their own team in the over 50s competition. Jeff, that's it for us. That's the end of our weekly show. It's, as I said off the top, it's season 16, episode 37. We've got a few more weeks left of this season before season 17 will begin in earnest. We'll have a story time coming out in a couple of days. That's story time 201. We'll have daily shows, Jeff and friends around the country as these matches take place between England and Australia. We haven't mentioned at any stage through the show, and it's remiss of me not to do so, our wonderful patrons who make all of this possible. Patreon.com/The Final Word. Storytime especially is made possible due to the pledges and numbers that come through there. The Discord community, we've got our Final Word game on the 20th of September that Jeff's playing in. I encourage everyone to come down to Dulwich Cricket Club and watch that and take advantage of the fact that there'll be money behind the bar afterwards and pizzas purchased and that kind of thing. So
I doubt my participation will be lengthy, but it will.
You're in the team.
Yeah.
You're in the team. All that matters is you're in the team.
I've got to improve my record in England after walking for the first baller that I didn't hit.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we'll work on that. We should war game where you're.
I'm never going to be that diplomatic again. I was trying to do the right thing, but in retrospect, fuck that.
And it was a guy who played Plunkett Shield as well, which made it all the worse. He'd taken wickets. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, I think you're bowling the first over. I think we've agreed that unless you don't want to, that you will get to send down the first over. So we'll play around with that. It's going to be a great game. It always is. We've never lost to the Dream Boys, which is one of my other teams. So we want to keep that record intact. Okay, that's us done. Bye for now. Bye.